outlook for application security. And for this, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Venkat, who is the Director Information Security Officer, Digital Data at Dell Technologies. Giving a brief introduction, Venkat has been in the industry for more than 27 years, and during the last 2 decades, he has been focused on building application and data security practices, providing consulting, strategy, architecture, and design services, aligning with business goals to enhance the security posture of the organization across multiple industry sectors. With this, please welcome Mr. Venkat with a huge round of applause.
Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. I know, I wanted to make this session more interactive, but given that I have been given only 10 minutes of time, let me see, what I can take up at the end of the session as a questions. As we all know, the organizations are trying pretty hard to be, out of the news in terms of not to be a victim of any cyber attack, right? So today I wanted to basically take up these sessions to talk about the outlook of the application security and hear from you in terms of your comments. So there are 4 topics mainly I wanted to cover. Before I even start in terms of why the need of application security, I wanted to give you a brief idea in terms of how the new threat landscape has changing, and last 2 years, what are the different trends that we have seen and that impacted us, right? And then when you look at the today's threat landscape, if I compare with a few years back, it's completely changed. So how that is impacting the application security, and as well as we'll talk about the importance of the application security. And before we talk about that strategy, I also wanted to talk about a typical application security posture for any medium or large size of the organization, and how that is being exposed in terms of the risks perspective. And then finally, I will cover with some of the best strategy or the approaches which can help us not only to enhance the application posture, but also in terms of how we can save certain cost in terms of prioritization. And if time permits, I'll show in a sample framework, CISO, which is nothing but comprehensive application security assessment strategy. As we have seen the high profile attacks continue to heighten the awareness, but at the same time, it also brought different concerns with the change in the threat landscape, right? As we know, in this journey of the cyber breaches, nobody is immune, irrespective of the size and scale of the organization or industry what we belongs to. It doesn't matter. We have seen almost 400% increase in terms of the breaches, if I had to talk about from last couple of years alone. And every 11 seconds, we have been seeing a new cyber attack. And some of the statistics, from the research group says that just in 2021 alone, there has been an average spend of $4 million for any cyber breach to be get recovered. And globally, there is almost $6 trillion has been spent just in 2021 on the cyber recovery, as well as in terms of the ransomware, payments and things like that. Why I'm talking all of that stuff is, if you look at any ransomware attacks that are happening beyond the social engineering and the insider risk, the next component that is basically adding on is, if you look at on the application side. So today, most of the times, more than 50% of breaches are happening at the application layer. So it could be in various forms, because of the weakness within the application or the next layers. But overall, in terms of penetration, is happening through the applications. And as the many CISO says that 60% of the application breaches are happening because of the vulnerability or the weakness that has been exploited part of the application design itself, and that is causing in terms of the application penetration. And today, if you look at an average for any organizations to identify a breach, it takes almost 65 to 70 days. I think we are too far away from in terms of the zero-day vulnerability detection and as well as the remediation, which is what every one of our goal. And on the bottom, if you look at some of the recent known impactful cyber breaches that we have seen, be it in the social media space of Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, or even on the other side of the world across the globe, like Colonel Pipe or US Cellular and things like that. I read somewhere just the Microsoft, the vulnerability itself has impacted almost 30,000 organizations, and we are still coming out of some of these log4j concerns when it comes to the application security perspective. So as the attack surface is continue to be increased, hackers are always been smarter than the defenders like us, but today if you look at there have been much more advanced technologies that they use, and we already seen some of the usage of artificial intelligence, machine learnings, and coming up with a programmatic attacks, right? Already there is a ransomware as a service available in the market, which has come out any other SaaS, PaaS, other product services or application services that vendors offers, the hackers are offering ransomware as a service. And as I said, beyond your phishing and the social engineering and as well as the inside risk programs, the important part is about the application attacks. So that could be in the form of the denial of service, bringing your service down, impacting your e-commerce or the sales organizations, and completely your the supply chain in terms of your manufacturing industry, or it could be a brute force attacks guessing the passwords and things like that, or it could be a cross-site scripting or cryptojacking, or even if I have to go into the manufacturing side, again the IoT plays in a bigger role. So the injection of the malwares, part of that has been completely expanded, right? And we will continue to see the zero-day exploits, and in overall scheme of the things, the organization are struggling with the third party much more, because one, we might be buying the applications or the products or the services from a third party, but if you look at we don't have any visibility into their patch management, their application coding guidelines, their threat modeling, so on and so forth. So always the TPRA is a known the risk that we have. So given all of that, it is a time for to look at the application security in a different way, not from the traditional secure SDLC that most of the organizations do that, but at the same time you also have to look at in terms of the cost impact, because we cannot go and assess every single application, and that takes a lot of cost and the energy. So this is a sample example I was trying to bring it up. Typically if you look at any large to medium size of organizations, we will have a heterogeneous application pack. So it could be in a legacy applications, or it could be the latest technologies that are there, but I can categorize it into three different types. One is basically the applications that are homegrown, which are developed internally by our own organizations, right, our business and the IT team. The second is in terms of the off-the-shelf applications, like SaaS kind of applications, where you bring a platform and onboard into your system and use it. There is a third type of category, we call it as off-the-shelf customized, which is nothing but your ERP kind of system. Basically, you take the platform and build on top of it and use it, right? And apart from this, of course, you continue to have your mobile applications, microservices, APIs that are being embedded into the application. So it's becoming more and more complex, and if you take overall application layer. But not just the application layer, is that going to get enough for us to looking into? Not really, right? So then comes the next layer of database. Again, like I mean, here also you have a multiple different kind of database that we do work with beyond the data lake platforms in terms of correlation of the data and things like that for analytics. And then the infrastructure layer, if you look at, like again, here also it is a hybrid model. So you have an on-prem data centers, you also have in a cloud. And then there is a hybrid model where application code might be sitting on the cloud, but the data is sitting on the data center or the vice versa, right? So all of this is basically exposing the risk of your application prone for any kind of interference. So there are multiple impacts that I have been talking. I don't want to go through all of this, but the key thing is, what is the strategy? What do you need to focus? So as I was saying, the large organizations and mid-sized organizations typically will have thousands of applications, right? So we cannot focus on everything. So you need to identify your crown jewels. How you identify your crown jewels? One, it could be in terms of the most business critical applications. So if that particular application goes down, X amount of the dollar is lost, your business will not continue, right? So that's more like a high value business applications. The second part in terms of the high threat or high risk applications, which are nothing but your external or the customer facing or the public facing applications, which are easy to penetrate because it is being accessible. The third is in terms of the applications that have your high critical data, like it could be highly restricted PII, regulatory requirement related data, or intellectual properties like your supply chain related, the product designs and things like that. So keeping that all of that in stuff, you identify your crown jewels, then start building your comprehensive application security strategy that can cover your entire application stack that we talked about, not just application layer, but database and as well as infra. And for example, if I had to take internet-facing applications, do you have the WAF in place, web application, firewall is in place, right? Do you have a multi-factor authentication for a customer-facing applications where you are collecting the information from the customer, right? So things like that. There are many things that you can look at it, using which you build a unified security control framework that can take care of your end-to-end security policies as well as other regulatory requirements that impacts, like SOX or PCI, depending upon the industry type where it matters, right? Then build your, the tools and the standards and try to bring the expertise who can help the IT team, the developers team to do this assessment, right? And once you identify your crown jewels, which may be, less than 10% of your overall, application posture, start doing the baseline assessment, which can help to know what is your security posture and where you want to go. So that's where you can set your maturity goals from the level where you are in. But while we are doing this, we should not, move away from our basic hygiene that is supposed to be cultivated regularly, which is nothing but every product and application that we build, it has to be secure by design, and start implementing shift security left. So that means starting from your requirement gathering itself, you need to embed the security, then do threat modeling, secure code analysis, penetration testing, so on and so forth. The rest of the colleagues have been talked about, and then start embedding the automation. Like what I mean by is, you embed the tools, security tools, part of your CI/CD pipeline, bringing the DevOps to the DevSecOps, but at the same time, if it is a false positive analysis, if it is a configuration from depending on the technology, so that is the where you can bring the automation part. And then finally, irrespective of what we do all of that, right, the security expertise cannot think similar to an ethical hacker or a researcher. So that is where you can use a third-party public programs like the researchers or the bug crowd programs, which can help us to get, especially for the external facing applications, to get any vulnerabilities that are weaknesses are available. And of course, just identifying itself is not going to help. Then that is where you have to have a better vulnerability management or remediation process based on the CVSS score, and you categorize the vulnerabilities into various categories like a high, medium, low, and kind of stuff, and then define based on the appetite. There is a 30 days required or 90 days required to complete that. And make sure that that happens in regularly. And as a technical experts and the security background, we all talk about it. But if business and the IT is not aligned in terms of that hygiene of the security culture, nothing going to work. So that is why we have to educate our leaders from the business side, and then enable our IT developers and architects and the designers. So using which you can able to make out. Am I done? Sorry. So this is a simple framework. I mean, I can talk offline, like if somebody wants to take up. So I can take one question, two question, whatever.
We can take one quick question.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. So basically, in case of solution design, it's a secure by design. In terms of healthcare applications, which US have HIPAA and ITIL 7, do you see something in India that we could look for, because healthcare market is growing fastly on digital space? So what is your take on that, and any suggestions?
So as I said, right, I mean, you are right, each industry has a different threat landscape, right? You first of all to understand, like, I mean, your value chain, where are your threat attackers are, right? And try to secure the core of that, right? Healthcare is one of the stuff, like, I mean, last year itself in Australia, many pharmacy as well as, the healthcare hospitals kind of stuff went down, right? That's all because of the same reason. So those applications which I talked about, those are external facing applications. Hackers are easily able to penetrate them. So you leverage your internal part, as well as I was talking about the crowdsource, which is a very good, stuff where you don't have to spend money, but at the same time you can take the brain of, like, I mean, the hacker, ethical hacker, and the researchers.